Happy almost or after Halloween, everybody. It's your favorite spooky ghoul, Mr. Drew. This is a companion video to the playthrough for Grey Lotus's Shadow Archetype. So if you want to check out that video, I do some rumbly rumble noises and also some tiddly taps on the bass. You can check that out right here. Today we're going to be talking about some bass guitar, how my processing works as of October 2023. Things always change. I wanted to thank Softube for firstly making the friggin' sickest plugins. Like, every single thing that they put out is my favorite plugin, and specifically for sending over this plugin, Softube's Murder 1. Highly recommend it for bass tones and even guitar tones. Their amp room software is really sick, overly featured, and I think really overlooked. So shout out to Softube, hugs to y'all fellas, and let's talk about some bass guitar. So the first thing we're gonna do, we got our bass stem right here. We're gonna send our DI to 3 different channels, and then we're gonna take those 3 channels and send them to their own bus. In Reaper, I just drop them into a folder because it's the same thing. I'm not gonna make y'all sit here and watch me come up with all of the processing. I'm just gonna show you what I did after the fact. I send my bass to a track I call bass sub. I am bumping up the low end a little bit, shaving off below 40 hertz. There's nothing happening down there really. And I find, honestly, on most basses, there's kind of like some extra harmonic stuff going on that you don't really want if we didn't use these guys. You just get a lot more of that like 5th harmonic, and I find that if you do these cuts, then the root notes come out a little bit more. Important thing that I already missed is that I am low passing this signal, so all we're getting from this is sub. So if you're listening on a phone or something, you're probably not going to hear any of this. Usually I would maybe keep this a little bit higher, like around there, but this is what I went with. So that Strandberg bass is pretty flat, so I think that's why I kind of pulled it a little bit further. So the next thing we're doing is we are hitting it with a big old limiter. Very slight look ahead, essentially might as well not be any look ahead, and as you can see, we are diming this gain, but we have our output level set to -12. So this is basically the systematic mixing guides approach to sub bass. We're looking for, okay, I'm hitting this really hard. Generally, you'd say you want about -6 dB. Apparently, I went for 12 because I'm a madman. And then a thing that commonly happens when you're limiting and also low passing is that you end up with some kind of higher junk making its way back in from aliasing and a number of other things. So I just jumped back in here, dropped another EQ on, and just low pass to 400. Just kind of gets rid of some junk. So that's our sub channel. And the next thing we're gonna do is make ourselves a little clean channel, or clank in this case. It's a little bit less than clean, I guess. So I'm using Softube's Murder 1, a Lemmy Killmeister signature Marshall amp. This thing is so sick. But yeah, so this is not gonna show off what it's able to do particularly well. We're gonna get to that. So the idea here, we are just using this channel for the high clanky clank, like fieldy corn styled click, click, click kind of stuff. Just kind of standard settings. I've actually found that little scratches that they put in are like perfect settings, and haven't found a need to change them very much. So this is without our filter, our EQ filter. Nothing particularly wild. As you can see, I ripped all the mid out, and I pulled our high shelf down just a little bit and then pulled the low gain down. Probably don't really need to do that, but... So now what we're gonna do is throw an EQ on it, and we're gonna get rid of all of the low end information and pull out a good bit of the mids as well, and then bump our high clicky zone, which is gonna give us this. Which is like, that's exactly what we're looking for. Just the clicky kind of tip top part of the notes with just a little bit of middle harmonic info. When you blend that with the sub bass, you should get something essentially along the lines of a normal sounding clean bass guitar. Maybe just a little bit light on the mids, and that we are going to deal with right now. So now we have our bass grit channel, which is the third channel that we have sent our bass to. Once again, Murder 1, basically same settings, except we are diming our gain. They've also got this little inputs option over here, which I need to do more reading. I'm covering up the plugin with my face. Nailed it. They have this little input section over here, which has a number of options and jumping and things, and I don't know enough about how that works, admittedly. Put all this together, we do our big gain boost, mega gain boost. We're using both the cabs over here, and we're using an SM7B on one and a 421 on the other, and that gives us this great big mid-heavy, angry, grindy. So you can probably see a pattern. We're gonna jump into our EQ. We're gonna pull lows out again, pretty much right to where low pass starts on our sub channel. I like to keep in the highs on my distortion channel just because it's a different kind of high than the clanky. But what we're really doing with this is filling out our missing mid section from earlier. Once we throw our EQ on here, we get this. This little dip right here, the usual stuff that happens when you run through a guitar cab. You get little resonances and whistles and stuff. So if we bring it back up. So if we take all three of these, put them together, you get this. Sometimes if you want to go real wild, I would maybe pull the gain down on the distortion channel, and then I would run a fourth channel, put a fuzz before it, and just have that go real hard on the low mid range, like 400 to 1K sort of business. This is a tech death mix, so we don't really have that kind of room to goof around. This is what we end up with. Our last maneuver. Those three tracks we run into an aux track. or a folder in the case of Reaper. And then we do some processing to all three of them at once. A little bit of cleaning up EQ here, cleaning up some whistly stuff, a little bit of junk from up there, and then it looks like I'm popping a little more presence in. I wanted to specifically kind of leave this one alone in terms of EQ and stuff because I wanted to really show off the Softube plugin because I think it really is lovely. Sometimes, depending on the mix, like what I would do is maybe bump this up more. Which is like a little much for this, and then especially the guitars in this mix are super loud, right around like 2 to 4K. That would be basically for nothing. Maybe I would take this EQ and I'd pull out some like 200 to 400. Because I'm doing all kinds of wild notes and stuff, I wanted to leave that kind of untouched. And I also wanted to go for a little bit of that like golf ball jazz bass kind of. Also, once again, a low pass, just cleaning up the high stuff. So now we run into a multi-band compressor, and this looks insane. And so we have 4 bands. Our first band is mega super duper low sub from 0 to 90 to 100 hertz. Absolutely, completely ruining and destroying the dynamic range of anything in the sub frequency. Just so that everything's hitting as hard as possible and we don't have any notes poking out or anything like that. A nice slow attack, pretty quick release, hit everything in the same way, keep it in the same place. It looks crazy with the gain boosts, but because we're doing so much to it, we're just bringing it back to 0 basically. So same idea on this next guy. Slow attack, quick release, and we're just thinking about the octave higher than all of those sub frequencies. We want to do the same thing, make sure nothing's poking out, going wild. I want to say I would probably normally go a little less hard here. But that's what we got. So cool. This guy, our mid band, I'm treating just kind of like a standard compressor. Pretty slow attack, and then a very quick release. And also, importantly, our ratio on these is like pretty low. Oh, wow. Just helps with the attack. Keeping your attack, a little bit slower. And then this, once again, basically just crushing all dynamic range. Just making sure we have a nice consistent top end with all of the picking. And so before, and then after. Next maneuver, we limit. Once again. This one, we're also shooting for about -6 dB, and this is just to make sure that nothing's poking. Once again, basically, the idea with the bass is you just absolutely destroy it so that it can do its job flawlessly all the time, every time, because it's an important instrument. So that's roughly -6. Probably could have hit that a little harder, but we're also compressing like crazy all over the place in other places. Our last move is another multi-band, the classic sidechain compression. So I have our drums running into this track. Sidechain set to free filtering. I'm running a stereo track from the drums, so there's no kick on its own. There's no nothing like that. It's the entire drum track. So I'm running the drum track in side chaining, only looking at frequencies up to 100 hertz. Essentially going to give us only kick drum, maybe the littlest bit of snare and the littlest bit of toms. But so this is what we're hearing. Same idea on this guy. Still using that kick range down there. What we're doing with this multiband, we are ducking the bass guitar so the kick drum can have its room to do its 30, 30, 30. So our attack is immediate. Our release is mega quick. Our ratio is at 100. Just to make sure it gets the heck out of the way. So whenever the kick drum hits, it'd probably be better to use something that's not the brrrr thing. Say here. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, you can see whenever the kick hits, it ducks our sub bass. And then what I did also is I dropped in a higher frequency band up here, so that makes some room for the click slash I don't know, whatever onomatopoeia you want to use for the higher kick drum bits. That's it. Bass, chain, processing, good times. Also, obviously, this is a playthrough, so it's a very bass-forward mix. I would normally not have my bass kicking that loud. Probably be around there, maybe even less. I guess one more note, especially for death metal stuff like this, in situations like this where your kick drum's going crazy. So that we don't completely lose the bass for the whole time, I would maybe go in and... My drums are called Hans Grossman because it was from a necrophagus thing I was working on. I would maybe go in, automate our drum send for that bit when it's just double kicking like crazy. Just automate the kick drum out so that the bass isn't getting completely crushed constantly, because there's like no reason for that to. Or maybe automate it like lower so it's still coming in but it's doing less. But yeah, tidbit, secret, there. Hey, so this is me coming at you after editing. I wanted to say very importantly that this is currently how I process my bass, although it has been a very, very similar process for a long time now. You know, there are no rules to mixing. There's no right way to mixing. So I'm sure there are things in here that I'm going to look back on and be like, absolutely, what the heck was I thinking? But that's how it works. And that's what happens as you progress with anything. So yeah, I'm not saying that this is the be all end all way to do things. I'm just sharing that this is my process. Thank you very much for watching. You're great. If you like this video, please consider hitting the like button, the subscribe button, whatever kind of button you want to press. I've got a Patreon, I got merch, whatever. YouTube is going to put a video up here that it thinks is going to be the next video that I made that you will like also. So click on that if you want to. Have a great day. Take care of yourself. Bye. Bye. You know? Okay, let's do the end screen.